Well, good to see you today. Thanks for joining and having this interview.
I'm so excited to be on with you, excited to share some legal tips and strategies with your audience and my audience.
All right, great. Well, let's get to it. So today we're going to talk about things beyond the business plan. So when we open our business, sometimes we have a business plan, sometimes we don't, but usually we don't think much beyond that. We tend to think of kind of those things that we might need to get started, like maybe we want to form an LLC or a corporation or something in that regard, but we don't necessarily think long-term about legal strategy. And as an attorney, as a business owner, and as a consultant, I know that you have a lot of experience in this area. So can you share with us what are some of the big things that you help small businesses do in terms of their long-term legal strategy?
Absolutely. So at Thomas Law, and the things you've kind of hit on are the key pieces of why I started and developed, founded Thomas Law and Consulting. So I was working with business owners, and I get referrals for kind of one-off things, but I'd be like, well, just from my business experience and my background in the business sector, you've got these holes here, and you've got these pieces that are missing. So they come and need formation, like you mentioned, or they want the, but having a strategy is about having a full plan, thinking about all the pieces, even if you're not in a position to implement them, having them in place and kind of putting the building blocks in place to have that. So that strategy is critical when we're talking about the business strategy and the legal strategies. So the first kind of key pieces when we're thinking about a legal strategy for a business is going to be formation. We want to ensure that the business is properly formed, the intentions of the owners are properly memorialized, and also thinking about long-term goals, if it's going to be to exit, to go public, to grow. Those pieces are critical and can be really thought through at the formation phase. Next is going to be service agreements, making sure you're clear about the services that you're offering, key components of that service, that your clients understand, their responsibility, payment terms, and having those service agreements that are really strong help prevent disputes and problems later on and have strong client relationships. And another kind of third kind of key one that's real big in your legal strategy for businesses that are going to be those lease agreements. Having an attorney reviewing your lease is critical as well, because there's a ton of opportunity. There's a ton of spaces for protection that a tenant can have, but everything's negotiable, and people just assume because the landlord is handing the lease, they have to sign it, and that's not necessarily the case. There's pretty much any and everything in there, from your tenant improvement dollars, your indemnification language, your termination, that can be negotiated. So you want to make sure you've got somebody, those people on the other side, those larger corporations are going to have somebody advocating for them. So you want to do the same. You want to have somebody that's got your best interest and that's thinking about your needs. So those are kind of key pieces for a business at those kind of middle, smaller phases that you think about. But as the business grows in scale, those kind of pieces expand and evolve depending on which way the business is going.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think that one of those things, retail space, obviously they might be thinking about leases. People who are more freelancers doing work from home, that might not have considered that, or might not have even considered any intellectual property that they may have that they might want to secure. And then obviously that contract piece is going to be there. There's some type of an exchange that we're doing in business, whether it's a service or a product. So just being clear about that in our legal documentation can be really important.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned exit strategy. So this is something that I think few of us consider when going into business, unless maybe we're going in with a partner. Then we might be thinking about, how can we determine where this is headed and what we might do if the relationship doesn't work out, or the business, grows to a point where we want to sell it. So exit strategies, can you give us a bit of an idea about what's different about an exit strategy than a business plan, let's say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So honestly, a lot of the key things that you need to consider that are important are going to be the same. You want to ensure that you're forming properly, that you've got the proper documentation, that the intentions, especially when you have partners, are correctly memorialized on ownership and payout. But also when it comes to thinking about an exit strategy and what that's going to be, if the exit is to sell, the big key things they're going to be looking at are your paper trail. They want to see your financials, taxes, balance sheets, profits and loss. So all that goes back to having proper people on your team to help have those in place. And it can't be 1 year's worth. They want to see some history. They want to see the more history you have, the better, but at least 2 years. And that's going to be if you're seeking financing or funding. But the more you have, the better. So if you've got a history showing continuous growth year over year for 10 years, that shows that you have a strong growing business. So that's going to prepare you to sell. If you've got your balance sheets, and so sometimes you've got business bank accounts. Another critical one you kind of mentioned is that IP. So in that client data, that's very valuable to have 5,000 of this person is interested in buying you, having 5,000 potential clients, emails, phone numbers at their fingertips that you can buy. That's valuable information that's in itself worth selling. So all of those, having those CRMs where you're gathering information, having those documentations on formation, having clear financials and showing profitability and growth are keys that buyers are going to want to see and going to want to really establish with the business.
Yeah, and I think, there is a lot of information out there. There are a lot of templates. I know there's, simple solutions for bookkeeping and legal documents. But at the end of the day, having someone who has actual expertise in this is really important. I think as entrepreneurs, we try to wear all the hats and cut the costs and do certain things ourselves. Can you give us an example of how using an attorney and having your legal documents in place has actually saved a business owner money as opposed to cost them money? I think we think about what we're going to put out right now, but what's the long-term vision on having that good legal strategy?
Absolutely. And that's critical to think about, not how much things are costing. I think you said as a business owner and talking to other business owners, what you hit it on the head perfectly, not thinking about money that you're putting out, but thinking about how what you're spending your money on is going to enhance your business and improve where you're going. Those are key components in that. And so when we're thinking about an attorney, having an attorney to review service agreement is a great one. It's going to help and when you've got a dispute. So if you're clear about these are the parameters when you can terminate, these are the parameters when you're going to be owed a refund, these are the parameters when you act, when I act, that's going to save clients and has saved clients a ton of time and money. In those scenarios, I can say if we do them right and we work on them like they should be on the front end, we save a lot of time and energy. And so we don't get to the dispute resolution part at all.
Right.
Where sometimes what I unfortunately meet clients is when they don't have those things in place. So I get to help them through the dispute. And then my next piece is, okay, now let's put the items in place so we don't have this problem in the future. So that's how that typically almost ends up working backwards sometimes. So the clients that do it, we don't have the problems and we never get to see those. But I usually end up with the clients that don't have the right things into place sometimes. And then we work through whatever dispute they have. And then we say, okay, how do we be proactive in the future and move forward to minimize complications?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is it, being proactive instead of reactive. Absolutely. Reactive and billable hours are not your friend when you're a small business owner. Being proactive and putting a little bit of money up front to really get things in place can save you so much money, time, and frustration in the future. It's just basically having your house in order, just like you would your home. Have your paperwork and your legal documentation in order. It's so important. So if people want to get in touch with you, I know that you offer legal services. You also offer consulting services. Obviously, this is broadcast worldwide, effectively, but you are located in Atlanta, Georgia. Are there any constraints in terms of, are you just working legally with clients in Atlanta and consulting, globally, or what is your how do people access you and who can work with you, maybe, is a clearer question?
Yes, so I'm because we are a business. I am barred and licensed here in Georgia, but because we are a business, and we're a transactional firm, I am in a position to have the resources and team in place to help clients throughout the U.S. I also have an international team that's got experience in different levels on the international side as well. So happy to help and have the resources to assist clients at different phases of their business. And location is definitely not a concern. We have all of our services are offered virtually. We're able to meet. I've got a client that's closing on a sale, super excited about tomorrow, that's in California. I've got another client I just got off the phone with that's in New York. I have another one that's bringing their business here to Atlanta. We're bringing additional locations here in Atlanta from Michigan. So we have clients all over the U.S. currently now. And so open and have the resources to help those clients. And really what we're helping with is twofold. So the legal services that we've spoken about, the legal strategy, so that actual documentation, so formation, legal contracts, service agreements, vendor agreements, lease agreements, exiting, that exit process. So from start to finish on the legal side of the transaction side, and then the dispute resolution. And then also the second fold of the firm is the strategic planning piece. So that's where we really dive in and help build the business. From those pieces we're talking about, how do we have a strong structured business plan, and how are we able to ensure our goals and our vision are met? And if scaling is the goal, how do we do that effectively? If we already have a strong business, which are a lot of the clients I typically see on the strategic planning side, is they've got a business that's upper 6 figures, 7 figures, and they want to go to the next level. And that tends to be where their expertise and knowledge in business takes them. And they're not really sure how to push past that 7-figure mark, or what steps, or maybe even a little bit of fear there. And how do I tackle that? Because it can be a little daunting on what next when we're talking about going past that $1 million mark. So really putting a plan in place, if that's additional locations, if that's additional teams, if that's additional service offerings, into really going to that scalable stage with their business. So that's really what we focus on the consulting side.
Nice. So it sounds like you really do, your work complements each other, and you can really help someone through that thought process, not just with the legal verbiage. You can actually help them structure it in a way that fits what they want and their vision for their vision for their business long term.
Absolutely.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for all of this. I think it's given us a lot to think about. There's always places that we can tighten up or refine our business, and legal documents is certainly an area that is important to do that in. How should people contact you if they want to maybe get a consult or just discuss how your services might match their needs?
Absolutely. So connecting with us on our website, we offer a complimentary 15-minute discovery call. So thomaslaw.org /contact. You can also learn more about our services, our team there as well. We're also on Instagram and Facebook at Thomas Law and Consulting. But for those interested in that consultation, definitely visit our website. Again, it's at thomaslaw.org.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Latrice. I really appreciate your time, and I know everyone else does as well.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it, and hope I was able to share and give some insight to our audiences.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. I'll see you soon, hopefully in person.
Yes, I'm sure we will. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.